Welcome to the CXO and CHRO Walk into a Bar, where we share insights at the intersection of talent and revenue. Dive into a unique narrative with our hosts, Michelle Strasburger, the insightful CHRO, and Dominique Sanfleur, the visionary CXO. Together, they bring dynamic perspectives that ignite thought-provoking dialogue from the C-suite. Each week, join us for electrifying sessions that confront the very challenges modern CXOs navigate in today's fast-paced business landscape. When split-second decisions loom, must it be talent or revenue that takes the hit? Or is there a harmonious crossroad where both can thrive? Can we blur the lines between talent and revenue? In every episode, we provide executive leaders with 3 strategic takeaways, transformative insights that will propel you to master the delicate balance between people and profit. It's not about winners or losers, but crafting an environment where everyone triumphs. Tune in and step closer to redefining executive success.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, hey. It's Thursday
Happy
already.
Thursday.
That every week.
Well, I mean, it holds for every week. It flies by legitimately. It just means that we're busy and running around.
And it's soccer season or football season. So it's just super fast, super fast.
I can sympathize with all of that for sure.
Mhm.
But what's demanding my time, or I wish there was more sports demanding my time. But no luxury of that.
It's fun and exciting. The Mohawks won last night against Lisbon, so 5-2. So we had something to celebrate on the way home. We were honking the horns on the way home last night.
Nice, that's exciting.
Very exciting.
Well done. Well, congratulations to Clayton on that.
Varsity soccer is like the real deal. It's like watching a pro game. They work really hard.
I wouldn't be surprised if one day they started paying at that level. It seems like it's trickling down. First college sports.
You should pay me. I'm driving everywhere.
There we go. There's got to be compensation for everybody.
Bus. Driving all the kids everywhere. So, well, welcome everybody. We're not here to talk sports, though that could be a topic because, leadership starts in sports sometimes, doesn't it?
Very good.
I'm Michelle Strasburger, the CEO of HR Rebooted, where we prepare executives for the future of the workforce through strategy, HR strategy, AI, and AI governance.
And I'm Dominique Sanfleur, CEO of Intramark. We help leaders anticipate risk in their workforce that disrupt execution. So we created Vibe as a smoke detector to execution risk. In a nutshell, that's what we do.
Awesome. So we are talking about the future of HR today, and I am super excited about this topic. And I'm hoping that we have somebody in the audience join us, and I'm going to pull this up on LinkedIn. So Jason McCoy shared our live event and commented on it. And it was a really interesting comment, and I'll get to that. And I'm hoping he joins because he has some insights that I think will be super valuable and helpful to this conversation. But I think in the next 5 years, if not sooner, it's already happening, right? I think HR is morphing. We're starting to see this morph where you disappeared, Dom.
I am back. I was just adjusting my lighting.
I'll just start disappearing.
No, I promise. I was just adjusting my lighting. I was hoping you didn't notice.
And HR is becoming not just the chief human resources officers, but becoming the chief digital officers or the chief AI officers. I'm calling them the chief human and AI resource officers, so chair. And so why it seems like when I've been talking about this, sometimes people get very territorial about where AI has to live and why does HR own it? Shouldn't it belong to marketing or shouldn't it belong to tech? And yeah, they should own pieces of it, right? But it has to live somewhere, and it really makes sense for HR to own it because they have to own the policy. they already have the tools to police it and put the guardrails in place. We already have the strategic alliances across the organization and the strategic partnerships across the organization, right? We've already put software in place across the organization. We understand how it impacts people across the organization. And this is something that's going to impact us both internally and externally across the organization and impact us strategically across the organization. And HR is in a strategic position to own that. And HR is already being tapped on the shoulders to, one, figure it out, and two, to build governance around it, policy around it, and police it, and then fix it when it's broken. And we already are starting to see lawsuits with it. And it's going to affect the workplace. And one of the things when we started talking about this was some of the quotes that we're seeing out there around Forbes predicting elimination of all frontline workers, right? Or a percentage of frontline workers, 60%. And that was where Jason responded, and he said, is it a good thing to replace entry-level jobs with AI? And is it an ethical thing? And should we really be focused on the ethics of AI? And that's another piece where I think that's why the HR of the future needs to be focused on this. And that's why I think it's such a great thing that AI is going to be able to replace a lot of the administrative pieces of HR, because we're able to then release our minds from that so that we can focus on all of these important pieces of how do we build our organizations utilizing the pieces of AI that make sense, and then adding the human element on top of that, right? Where can we lean in and have a human-centric approach? Where can we lean in to use AI in innovation to get better, right? And then how do we use it to then take some of the tactical things away and then upskill and reskill people and repurpose across the organization and build the organization. So I'm going to stop talking.
This is a very meaty topic. There's a lot here. It's kind of like a buffet. I don't know where to start, right?
It is so
right. There's a lot. I think we can work our way up, and as we're looking at HR of the future, right? I think what we can agree on is HR of the future is going to be less about compliance and more about strategy and pushing the business forward. So I think that's an easy place to start, right?
I think there is going to be. I think there is going to be the strategy. There's going to be a big focus on strategy, right? And how do we use AI as part of that strategy? But there's going to also be a piece of a different piece of compliance around AI governance, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that we're doing all of the right things as far as ethical use of AI, making sure that we are really managing the risks with AI, and that we're also doing the right things as far as what are the right words here? Treating our people fairly with AI too, right? Managing the things that we're putting into AI, and AI is learning because we're putting things into it, and we are humans putting things into AI. And so AI is learning from us, and we are inherently biased. And so because of that, the system is then biased. And so we have to watch it. And so we still have to make sure that we're still making good, sound employment decisions, and we're still treating people fairly and equitably across the organization, and we're still doing good employment practices. And so we still have to make sure, as far as compliance goes, that we're still doing those things correctly. And right now we're not, as far as AI is concerned. And there's lawsuits out there. There's one with I'm not going to talk about the names, but there's an ADEA lawsuit out there right now, which is age discrimination because of biases in there. There's one with an interviewing platform that discriminated because it looked at how somebody's facial responses were, and those that were disabled didn't have the same responses or facial cues. And so that's discriminatory. So there are things that we're not doing. So there are still going to be compliance pieces. Some of the old compliance things will be automated. And like the reports that we had to run, like the EEOC and stuff like that, that stuff will all be automated that we don't have to worry about. It'll be a new way of compliance, I think, that we'll have to face.
I think, thank you for correcting me. I think what I should have said was less administrative, more strategic, but the compliance part of it will evolve to be, at least in my mind, it sounds like with the advent of AI, HR's role is going to be less about compliance in the traditional sense, but more about owning ethics. And so evolving into ethics, right? Not necessarily this state needs this payroll tax or whatever it is, that kind of compliance, but more about, okay, what are the ethics? And it's more high level, more strategic compliance.
AI governance and oversight.
Governance, 100%. Tell me more about that, Michelle. So, if we have to take a step back, right? And so we're talking about HR of the future, less administrative, more strategic, compliance more at a strategic level, less of a cost center, pushing more to a revenue center. What does all this look like? If you had to redesign it from scratch, what would the HR function look like in a company? Let's say we started a company today, brand new, and it suddenly popped up, and it's a $1 billion company that happened to not have an HR group, and they bring you in. They say, what does HR look like? You have free reign to kind of design what that should look like for today and going forward. How would that look like? How would it differ from legacy HR? And where does it take? What are the impacts or outcomes it drives for the company, like for the organization, I guess?
Duh, that's exactly what we're doing at HR Rebooted. I'm glad you asked.
Love
So we have 3 pillars. So we're focused on HR strategy, which is culture. So we have our culture performance system. So we start there and we build what do we want your culture to look like? And we start with the intentional culture, not based upon sticking values on the wall and moving on, right? Really intentional. What does that look like? How do we drive behaviors? And we build a whole system around that. And then we build everything, all the reinforcement systems, therefore, right? Everything to support that. And then we move into AI. And then how do we build, we've got our people, right? Supporting the culture. Then how do we use AI to reinforce that, right? What are the AI tools we're going to use to reinforce that? And then governance is a part of that. So then how are we going to pull it all together? And then how are we going to make sure we are policing it? We have prompt management through that. So we've got guardrails on prompts. So if somebody's putting in social security numbers or proprietary information, it flags. And then we have a 7-step process for governance. And so step 1, very simply similar to governing your 401k, you have a committee and you start building out committees for your governance. So you have, where do you see your risks? One, it might just be, we're a small organization, we're going to have one committee, and that's just going to be on general AI oversight, right? And we're going to meet, we're going to pull in IT, we're going to pull in marketing because they're using AI, we're going to pull in legal and make sure they're part of this. And we're going to meet every 2 weeks, maybe to start building out what's our policy. What are the things we're going to accept or not accept? What are the frameworks we're going to put in place? What are some of these guardrails we're going to put in place? And how often are we going to monitor it? And it might also include training, right? So what are the training pieces we're going to include? How are we going to train new hires? How are we going to let them know what our culture is? How do we use AI? And what that entails.
So if I'm digesting this correctly, right, it's about, behaviors broadly, but it's basically creating a framework where, there's a team, a dedicated function to help manage the ethics around AI in that environment, right? As
work, right? How do we work from like culturally, organizationally, and then the tools and systems that we use.
Got it. Got it. And so I like that framework. So what do you think is stopping people, or kind of blind spots, frictions from getting the HR of today to that ideal, standpoint? What are the things that are kind of in between?
I think that it's our current way of working, right?
Mm.
It's not broken, so we're not going to fix it. Fear of the unknown. I think AI is still very new. I have a client that I was talking to them about using AI, and the CEO was like, "Oh, nobody uses AI. We don't have to worry about it." And 30 minutes later, I met with the head of sales, and we were opening a job, and he went into Chat GPT on his phone and said, "Let me whip up a job description." And he whipped up a job description and said, "Here, I did your job for you." And so it is a bit of the wild, wild west as far as AI goes. And that's why I think HR needs to like reel it in. And so it's either like there are no policies and people are using it, or there are policies and people are using it and they might not be following the policies. And so, but I think there is no real clarity on how we should be using it, if people are using it. And I think there's just so much unknown right now, and what it's really going to do. If you just search up, how does AI affect my job? Not even say like what your job is, just my job. You'll find thousands of articles on how AI is either going to replace your job or take over your job, or take parts of your job. And it's frightening. And people don't want to partake in that, right? You don't want to know your job's going to be taken away. And so HR really needs to spend some time on figuring out what that means for their organization, how their organization is going to use AI, and come up with a full strategy and start talking about it with people. I think in the quote I used for this, gosh, I can't remember which company it was. One of the companies said, they're not going to hire any new jobs that can be replaced by AI. They've made an email announcement to all of their employees and said that. So they're already talking to their employees about how AI is impacting the organization. And employees are nervous about it. And so if employees are nervous about it, and they're nervous that AI is going to take over their job, what's going to happen? They're going to start leaving. And so HR has a responsibility to start having these conversations within the organization, and start pushing leaders to start having these conversations with their team members.
Which is interesting, right? Because fundamentally, what I'm picking up on, right, is as far as the HR function, the HR of the future, right? Why potentially there may be hesitancy to lean into AI and its fullest capability is you don't want to lean into the thing that can destroy you, right? You don't want to lean into the thing that and show and demonstrate use cases of how it could do aspects of your job, quicker, right? Especially when HR as a function is typically viewed as a cost center. Typically, is one of the first areas at a company looked at when there are cuts. There's pressure, for the HR function in general. Mm-hmm. Then there's this business case and argument for, here's a ton more efficiency. So I could see where there's like a friction of not wanting to bring AI, one into an environment in general, or try and police it so that it's restricted as which is not productive either, right? It's how does the HR of the future embrace AI in a way that it helps them accelerate their own function and role in the organization in a way that doesn't threaten them, right? And so I think that's an interesting balance.
Scary. You have to run towards the bullet, right? You have to run towards the bullet. But that's I think it's similar. I was sharing this story. We did a half-day webinar on Monday around this same topic. It was called Leadership, Learning, and Governance in the Age of AI. And we were talking about it. And I remember sharing the story when I was in 7th grade. I'm going to share how old I am now. I was in 7th grade and I had a friend who got email for the first time. His dad was like a lawyer and he got him email. And back then we would like write letters to each other and fold them up in like origami and like send them to like pass them in class to each other. And that's how we communicated. And so I remember him telling me he got email and I was like, what is that? And he's like, I can send you a letter electronically and you don't have to like fold it up and send it to Sally. And then she'll send it to me. And then I have to check a box and fold it up and send it back to you. And I was like, that's silly. Like, why would you need that? I could write it on a piece of paper and send it to you in class. I don't have to go home and go to my computer and send it to you. And here we are today where we've now progressed to text messages and Slack, and email is still there, but like it's come such a long way. And I feel like AI is now that of like, ooh, why do we need AI? Like I have email, I don't need AI, right? Or I have Google search, or I have, all these other things. It's the same thing, right? And it's the people that don't start to get into it or understand it are going to be left behind. And it is like the advent of the internet, but it's growing faster and faster because it's learning faster than when the internet started, and it's going to leave people behind. And I don't think it's one of those things like you have to learn it today. I think you can learn it in baby steps. You can learn something and then learn something else and then learn something else. And it's all incremental learning. So I learn something new every day about AI and I'm like, oh, wow, that's really neat. And it's something I've learned on top. I'm not relearning it every day. So it's not that overwhelming where if you learn it, you have to relearn it every day. You can take baby steps.
100%. And few more thoughts. I like your comment about run towards the bullet, right? Because AI, has been imposed on us in good ways and bad ways, right? Like I don't want to use the word impose in a negative manner, but it's been imposed on society, right? Like it's here, right? It's here whether you like it or not. So you kind of have to run towards the bullet if you have that kind of relationship with AI, I guess for now, right? Mm-hmm. Which I have a question for you on that, but I think in running towards the bullet, in staring into the abyss or running into towards the bullet, I think the very thing that people may be afraid of can also be a huge benefit in helping you navigate that uncertainty, in itself, right? So the way I use ChatGPT and other AI tools is to really be a thought partner, right? And really using it to think through problems. And if if HR, the legacy, sees itself as, threatened by, the future and not being able to keep up, or you as an HR professional, whoever's out there, HR professional feels threatened, that's a great opportunity to use AI to help solve that problem itself, right? It's have a conversation with ChatGPT and say, I think one practical approach, but not limited to this, is here's my job function. Here's what I do. What can you help me do better? And also, given that you're helping me do these things quicker, better, so on and so forth, how can I think about my role so that it's hard for you to replace me? And having that conversation with AI can help you craft what basically tactically, what your day-to-day could start to look like and how you could evolve your current role into something that's more strategic, right? And again, ask AI, how do I communicate this with my boss, right? Here's the plan of how I'm going to leverage you to help do my job better. As you make these tasks more efficient and I don't have to do them anymore, I can focus on these other tasks and I'll communicate this to my boss. And so you could have that iteration. And so the very thing that we may be afraid of can be the thing that has the answers for us. Right. And so I encourage anyone who kind of has that fear with AI to also look at it. Yeah, start playing with it, because it is also the solution in many other ways.
And wouldn't you rather be the HR person that goes to the CEO and says, Mr. and Mrs. CEO, did you know that the AI tools that people are using, because we don't have a policy today, is actually learning based upon what all of our employees are putting into the system, because we don't have it locked down. So employees are putting in trade secrets, proprietary information, salary information, employee names, all this information into their cell phones, into ChatGPT in their personal accounts, and our proprietary information is going out there. Here's the solution. I have a solution, XYZ, right? We get our own policy, we get our own system, we lock it down, and employees are only allowed to use that system. Win-win. I've created the solution. Versus the alternative, when the CEO comes to you and says, Mr. or Mrs. HR person, we have a problem. Did you know that the AI, because we don't have an AI policy, our trade secrets have been leaked, and now our competitor has that information, and we are in a bad situation. And now we have to lay off half our workforce. I'd rather be the first person that comes up with the solution, a proactive solution. And so learn what you can, take baby steps, link arms with other departments, join other HR groups, join other communities where you can learn about AI. There's a lot of information out there. Find a good partner for AI out there. There's a lot of good learning for AI in HR out there you don't have to pay for. Like I said, we did a good webinar on Monday that was half day, it was free. Start to draft a policy around AI within your organization. You can start small. You don't have to write a book on it. Start with how are we going to use AI in our organization? What does it look like? Are we going to limit it? Maybe start having conversations with employees about what AI looks like in your organization and how your philosophy is over the next couple of years. Is it going to take away jobs? Maybe the answer is we don't know yet, but we're looking into it. We have a committee that's working on it. And this is when we expect to have answers. Because people are thinking about it. It's everywhere. And start to pull that stuff together. Start to become the expert, because this is our opportunity in HR. This is one of the first times where something's not thrown at us because there's nowhere else to put it, right? We can take this. We have the expertise. I know we're not experts in AI, but everything else we've done, right? We're change agents. We have all of the other experience across the organization. We're strategic leaders. We can learn about AI and we can implement it. We can work hand in hand with IT and with other departments to put this in. So I just start working on it, start putting teams together, and start making the shift happen. You don't have to spend a ton of money on it initially.
Yeah, and I think approaching this in a way where you don't want to be, the function that restricts AI's capabilities, right? Mm-hmm. Because AI is it's a necessary advantage. It's a necessary tool for a lot of organizations, and you want to develop policies and practices that allow employees to leverage AI to its fullest capabilities, but of course protect the organization's trade secrets and information. So there's a delicate balance. I don't think the right answer for an HR function is to lock things down and restrict it in ways where it can't be leveraged to its full capabilities, but figuring out ways, and the solutions are out there. But I think the huge opportunity there, Michelle, that we talked about for HR is to own the ethics around AI. I think that falls very, very solidly within HR, and I can see HR professionals going out there being proactive about, one, what does my function look like today? Using AI, I think the best way to use AI is to just learn AI is just to start using it. Mm-hmm. Just jump in. There's nothing, for me at least, the way I learned, there's nothing that replaces just getting your hands dirty and just start using all these tools and experiment. Just go and experiment. Just kind of see what's out there. and I think this is the best way to learn. But as you're learning, helping using AI to help you reposition yourself to be, future proof in AI world, and helping, using AI to help you guide and navigate and redefining your function in a proactive, in a very proactive way, and bring that solution to leaders. But I think, within that comes, there's an opportunity to own AI ethics, because I think that's a very important aspect of AI. I don't think there's any other function that's well positioned to own that than the people function. So I think AI ethics is a huge part, of where HR could really lean in, without being restrictive, but being smart, but also being very, very thoughtful. I think HR of the future, I think a big component of HR in the future is going to be, around and owning AI ethics, because I think it's going to be super necessary.
I think so too. I think another place to start too might be talking to employees on how they're using it in a safe spot, because you might not want to freak them out and say, "How are you using AI?" and then have them say, "I'm not using it. I don't know what you're talking about." So have them, how are they using it? Is it creating efficiencies? Are they adding workflows? How are they using it, and what tools are they using as well? I think we're also going to see a lot, in addition to ethics, with transparency around AI too. Like, when is AI being used? I think we'll probably start seeing it within like the movies first, before we start seeing it in marketing, before we start seeing it anywhere else. But I know if you self-publish on Amazon, it asks you if you've used AI in any of that. So maybe in publishing too, we'll see it there.
A big one.
But yeah. If you are concerned about where you are as far as governance or policy, HR Rebooted has a gap analysis that you can take. It's totally free. Sends you a report. It's a few questions, and it sends you a report on where you are and what we can do to help, or what you could do to improve your score on your gap analysis and on governance. So I will put that in the comment section of the recording, so you can access that and take that.
Michelle, this is, thank you for being one of the forefronts in, helping the HR function move in this direction, right? I think, to your point, run towards the bullet. You may find out it's not a bullet at all, and it's something that can help you quite a bit. Yeah. So rubber bullet is harmless, not harmless, but not harmful, and could be quite helpful. And so
I think it's an exciting step. I think HR has been hungry for this strategic seat for years, and we've been talking about it since I've been in HR, of how does HR get a seat at the table? And this is our opportunity to pull that chair out and take a seat. And the administrative pieces are going to be taken by AI. Let them take them, and we can take the strategic seat. So this is our opportunity, and we should grab it and run towards the bullet and go for it.
I totally agree. Very exciting. Very exciting.
It is. So until next week, cheers.
You've just experienced another episode of The CXO and CHRO Walk into a Bar, where we share insights at the intersection of talent and revenue. Thank you for joining us. Please join us next week at noon Eastern for more strategic content to help you scale your business. You can follow us on LinkedIn and on YouTube for additional content or episodes you may have missed. The links will be in the comments section. If you'd like more information or to schedule time with Michelle or Dominique, follow the link in the comments section to book time on their calendar. Until next week, cheers.